This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express Monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, 'cause this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge.
Hey friends, welcome to this week's pod. This is the show for the week of July 1st, 2024, and yes, the year is half over, which is kind of crazy already.
It's nuts.
And this is what's going on in our Disney World, and what's going on, as you can probably tell, is that Jason is not here because I don't sound like Jason, and I don't look like Jason for those of you watching on YouTube. Instead, I did bring on what I think is an upgrade in co-host. My wife, Judi, is joining us here. But also timing-wise was good. Jason was away this week on vacation, but Judi just came back from a mother-daughter trip to Walt Disney World, so timing worked out really well. So say hi, Judi.
Hi.
Before
I'm
we get
nervous.
Yeah, it's all right. Before we get started, just a quick reminder of our social media. Find us everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of that at the DBC Pod, including our YouTube channel, and also find our Discord server. Obviously, a lot of jumping going on the Discord server as people have been talking about the big change with Genie Plus going away, being replaced by Lightning Lane Multipass and Single Pass and stuff like that. So, Judi, I didn't know if you had thoughts about this change. Obviously, you went when there was FastPass Plus, and now you just had your trip with Genie Plus, but what do you think about the changes coming?
I think it's going to be really confusing at first, and I'm really glad I didn't have to deal with that. Because I know you'll definitely be on top of like how people are doing it, and even though it'll be only like a few weeks in when you go, like you're much more prepared to handle that than I would be. So, I think once it settles in, it could be really good, but until that point, it's definitely gonna have a learning curve, I think.
Yeah, every time they switch to a new system, there's the learning curve, and then there's the how to be a power user with it and kind of figuring out all the loopholes and how to optimize it. And I'm sure that'll happen. One thing I did want to mention was last time it was a little unclear how it would work for guests coming from Canada. It mentioned international guests wouldn't be able to pre-purchase it and pre-book their stuff until they were on U.S. soil. It did get clarified that Canada will work like the U.S. So if you're from Canada, you'll be able to pre-purchase and pre-book just like in the U.S. Apparently still, though, if you're from Europe and the U.K. and things like that, you won't be able to. I think it's due to like laws they have over there with purchasing things in apps. It's not like a specific Disney thing. So obviously it stinks for people there. They'll be at a little bit of a disadvantage, but at least folks coming from Canada, we have a number of people on the Discord and other friends of ours that were really anxious about that, feeling like they were going to be at a big disadvantage.
Yeah.
Did also want to mention that Touring Plans put out a really good article, and I'll make sure to tweet it out and put it in the show notes, going over sort of the history of everything from paper FastPass to FastPass Plus to Genie Plus to now Lightning Lane Multipass, and kind of the pros and cons of each, and kind of if you did this strategy with Genie Plus, this is kind of how you're going to be impacted and stuff like that. So thought it was just a really good article, so I think if you are kind of wanting to see everything written down, that would be a good place to go. And the only other news thing I'm not going to spend too much time on the news because I want to get into the trip report, but Disney did announce a lot of the information about the holiday seasons coming up. At Walt Disney World, it's pretty much going to be business as usual. The Dream Lights are not coming back. I know a lot of people were hoping they would be. I don't know if there was rumors of it or just people hoping, but it's not coming back. It's just going to be the projection show again. The one big change is they seem to be adding more to Jollywood Nights, and they mentioned even having an ice skating rink in front of the Chinese theater, and they're going to have like an ice skating show and stuff like that. So we don't normally go down in Christmas time because it's hard to get away from my job and the kids in school and stuff like that. So we've never done either of the parties, either the regular Very Merry Christmas Party or Jollywood Nights. But is that something you would ever want to do?
I don't know. It's hard because, like you said, like the kids, the times that they get off are right around Christmas. It's the busiest time, and I just don't want to deal with that. So
Most
maybe when
expensive time too.
that too. So maybe, when they're older and, I mean, oh, hard to think, but we're not so many years off from
Kids being in
college
college
age, and they finish so much earlier in December. So it would definitely be something we could do then. But right now, I just think, especially every day counts so much in high school that it's hard.
Yeah, I think one year we did a long weekend, but the kids were a little bit younger there, and even then it was kind of pushing it to take them out even for a few days. So, going to be tough. But speaking about trips to Walt Disney World, the main reason Judy's on here is to talk about her recent trip. She just got back yesterday, a day later than the original plan was. But she had previously planned a mother-daughter trip, just her and our oldest. But it happened to coincide with the grand opening of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So we also thought it would be great to have her on to talk about how that day went and just how it was being in a Walt Disney World theme park for the opening of an attraction and kind of the pluses and minuses, the emotions and what worked, what didn't, and all sorts of stuff like that. So why don't we start, though, just giving a little bit of background on the trip, sort of, how did it come to be, who exactly went, where did you stay, and kind of the travel dates, how many days, stuff like that. So just kind of high-level overview of the trip.
So we started thinking about either in the end of school, before summer camp started, or in the fall when there were some Jewish holidays that our kids have off for, because Olivia is working, our oldest daughter, as a CIT at camp this year. And with that, she is working 8 weeks of our 9-week summer. So that meant she did not get a vacation. The rest of us, and she knew this when she was registering for it. And she's excited. She loves it. They had their first day today, and she's so happy. But with that, it seemed really unfair that she wasn't getting the vacations that everybody else was. So we started looking, and she thought it would be better to go before the summer. So she ends school earlier than the other two do, being in high school. And so we went while the other two still had a day of school left and flew down. And we were stuck on the airplane for 2.5 hours. We had a very tired first day of our trip, but we did have a good trip overall. So it was myself and Olivia. She is just finished her freshman year of high school, and we stayed at Pop. We got a preferred room, so we were pretty close to walking, but thankfully we weren't right near the pool where it was loud, so it was really good.
So when you're thinking about planning the trip, what kind of key elements did you want to plan before you went down? Like, obviously, like we said, you planned it before. We knew Tiana's was going to be opening and stuff like that, but how much pre-planning did you do versus wanting to go in open and flexible? What dining reservations maybe did you make, and things like that? So what went into maybe even why you picked the resort you did? So just sort of your general thoughts and kind of how you put the trip together.
So first off, the way we picked Pop was because of that Skyliner access that was there, and they did have the room type we were looking for at the price, honestly, that made sense. And so we wanted that. So 2 of our 3 park days, we could just take the Skyliner, and it worked really well for us that way. And then as far as ADRs, we started looking at it, and we did sushi at Epcot. We did it's Shiki Sai, and we really like that. So that was a good choice. My kids all like sushi, so we can almost never go wrong with sushi unless they just don't have salmon avocado rolls. That's basically their thing. And then we also, we didn't have anything particular at Hollywood Studios we wanted, but we did end up going to Oga's, which was great. That we sort of added on later, so it's nice. You can definitely pick up availability for that later. And then the other thing we had planned was the dessert party for the fireworks. So.
Yep. So I think because I helped you plan some of this stuff, and we did. I think we even your 60-day kind of snuck up on us because we didn't really have
It
a
did.
ton of plans. But you were able to book Shiki Sai and the dessert party. You did the pre-party desserts, right?
Yes.
Pre-fireworks dessert.
And I pretty much had my choice. None of those were like you have to grab them like immediately, which is a nice thing too. We're trying to be a little like relaxed.
Yeah. And I think though Oga's we only decided to do, or you decided to do mostly because I wanted to get the mug that he's watching on YouTube is up over there. But only a couple days, right? Like less than a week or something like that before the trip, or maybe about a week.
Like a week and a half or so.
Okay.
I think it was before.
But even that, it was, I think a couple time slots were full, but it was still pretty wide open. So even though the dining plan is back, it still seemed like pretty easy to get into most of the, or at least anything you were looking for.
Yeah.
And we should have mentioned your trips that you stayed. It was 4 nights, right, in the hotel, and then the 3 park days, right? So you didn't do a park your arrival or leaving day.
Yeah, the arrival we didn't get in until, well, the plan was 11 p.m., but we didn't actually get in until after midnight. So
yeah, it was like 2:30 or something like that. By the
time
we got
to the room, yeah, it was like 2:30, and so we were going to bed at like 3 a.m. It just storms, which is a big thing in June down in Florida, and they just had backed up earlier in the day, and the airport never recovered. And so they were estimating, like from what I could find online, it was like 15-20 minutes, but it was 2 hours and 20 minutes. So
yeah. And so you guys had decided to do 3 parks, just kind of looking at the number of days to get it in, like once she was done with school before camp started. I think we looked into doing the 4th park because they had the special ticket package of adding the 4th park. It wouldn't have been that much more to do it for your departure day. But I think overall Olivia just wanted to do the 3 parks, right?
Right. Those were the ones she was, and we wanted to go to Disney Springs.
Yeah.
She wanted to go and do some shopping. She enjoys shopping, typical teenage type thing, but also like just she's a good kid and she likes hanging out with me some, which is really nice.
Yeah. So they did, and we'll get through the days there. They did Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and then Magic Kingdom. So no Animal Kingdom this trip. Those were the ones that she picked. So she said there wasn't that much at Animal Kingdom she liked to do, so she wanted to kind of pick those 3. So with that, the last thing which I wanted to ask about pre-planning was when they did announce the opening date of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, how did that, I guess, impact your planning, but also how did that impact your mentality about the trip?
I immediately started stressing a little. I was really hoping it was going to open like the week before. So that initial rush would sort of die down. Everything would get a lot smoother. And then it just was that day. And so I really started thinking like, who can we get? How many people can we get to like, like help us out, find out all the information and the details and like.
And I think at first when they announced it, they hadn't said, I think initially that it was going to be Genie Plus and Virtual Queue. It was like, I think speculated to be Virtual Queue, but we also thought it was going to be individual Lightning Lane.
Right.
But it turned out to be Genie Plus, so then we had to adapt for that too.
Yeah, it was definitely like stressful trying to get everything all coordinated and taken care of.
I will say the one, I guess, good thing that worked out was this Magic Kingdom Day was already their Magic Kingdom Day, so they didn't have to change around their schedule to make sure they were there on a day Tiana's was open. It just happened to be that was already planned to be their Magic Kingdom Day, so they already had the firework party booked, and they didn't have to shift around any reservations or anything.
Yeah, it really did work out well that way. That it was our plan. So
okay. So going through the actual trip, we kind of already went down. Like obviously you went down. You flew down from. We live in New York. Flew down from New York to MCO. A later flight after Olivia got out of school that day. Did run into those issues once you got down to Orlando, right? That they just didn't have a gate for you, so you were stuck on.
I mean, honestly, I would have tried for an earlier flight because the kids actually did have a half day that day. But that's the flight I found. We used like some award points and did an award flight, and that was the one that I was able to get seats on. So that made in hindsight, I would definitely, in high storm months, try to get something earlier in the day so that even when things back up, you're able to, get there without being in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that issues with storms reared their ugly head on the return flight, but we'll get to that as well.
Foreshadowing.
As you mentioned, you were staying at Pop Century, and you kind of went through the reasons why and that sort of thing. Overall, I think we had stayed there on our a parents' trip right before.
Yes.
So you had stayed there before.
Yeah, we'd done a split stay with there and Animal Kingdom Lodge.
But overall, how did it work out, and were you happy with your choice?
It was good. It was nice. We each had our own bed, and there was enough space with two of us. We didn't feel crammed or anything. And the room, it's like a very clean aesthetic, so it made it easy to keep everything where we could find it.
And then, like you said, two of the parks you took the Skyliner to, and then for Magic Kingdom and Disney Springs you had to use the buses, and did they work out okay?
Yeah, we were actually, I think, fairly lucky with the buses that we were within, minutes of arriving at the bus, queues. We were able to be on a bus each time. The only exception a little bit was on the way back from Disney Springs on that Saturday. We were, thankfully, it's all covered, so because it was pouring from Disney Springs, and we were lucky enough to make it out there, and I had carted our ponchos around all day, and I was starting to think, oh, I'm not going to need these, but we did.
So everything I think worked out overall with that, which is good. And then so you got in super late in bed, asleep by 3 a.m. Your first day though was Epcot. So what was your thoughts going into this day? And what were your priorities to get done at that park for that day? And then I guess, did you do anything at 7 a.m.? Because that's still now if you're going to get Judi Plus and the virtual queue for Guardians and stuff. So how did kind of starting that day go?
So we did plan to, get the, not Genie Plus that day, but we did want the virtual queue for Guardians. We didn't do the individual lightning lane for that. We have done it in the past, but having ridden it some, we decided, we didn't want to have a crazy day. So we did get that, but because we were so tired after that, we went back to sleep.
Okay. So you were up at 7 a.m. and obviously I was up helping you along with some other people. But then after you secured it, you went back to bed.
Yes. Yeah, and then we got up and going, and we made it in the grace period for our window. For your boarding group. Yes, it actually, because the park didn't open until 9, but our window opened before that point.
Yeah.
So, because it was I think it was 16.
Yeah, I think you were 14 or 16 or something like that. And I guess they start them during the early entry. So yeah, I guess you made it there before 10 though. So that's pretty good for.
I think it was actually I don't know, flash screen, but I thought it was 10:02 or something, okay. And they were really but it still went green.
Yeah, so. Usually for Guardians, they're not as strict about it.
Well, and I also wondered if it was some of it because of the early start.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so that's what you did. Did you get breakfast or anything that went in for food?
Well, our original plan was to try to get milk somewhere the night before when we landed. I knew that the store at Pop would be closed, so I was going to try to pick something up at one of the airport things on the way out, but they were all closed by the time we got off. Everything was shut down. So we just stopped. We just booked it to Guardians, and after that we were going to go to Starbucks, but the line in that Starbucks was insane. They did not have mobile ordering available, and it looked to me like it was just a sea of people. It looked to me like it was an hour-long line. So I went to Joffrey's and got coffee at the Joffrey stand. It was nice. It was quick. It was pretty good.
Just get regular coffee. I know some of the stands around World Showcase, they do the...
I got a lavender
shaken Jamaican
latte.
And stuff like. Oh, you got a lavender latte. Okay.
Yeah, and then Olivia got one of the specialty lemonades there as well, and she liked that. Okay.
So you did that right. You did Guardians first and then that. And then kind of how did you think about the rest of the day? Because I know you had your dining reservation at Chica's side, but that wasn't until mid-afternoon, right?
It was 4.
Yeah. So what did you do kind of after your coffee?
So after that, we did, and I had a snack that I had at the, on the way out of the hotel. Like it was like a little Trader Joe's Madeleine. So I had something. Olivia had some snacks too. So we went after that. I think was when we went to the Land Pavilion.
Okay.
Because Living with the Land is one of my favorites. So that was like, and Olivia likes it as well. So we really wanted to like just go and get that done. Some of the other like big rides had big waits, so we figured we'd worry about those later in the day when things maybe died down a bit. So yeah, so we headed over there. Soren still had to wait, so we went back later and did that later. Even we walked a lot,
Yeah.
a lot of back and forth, but we didn't, I don't think at any single point in time we waited on any lines that were at their like max. So that was nice. Even when we got later in the day, we did get to like Remy's and Frozen, and we had to wait in lines for those, but it wasn't like the 2 hour line. It was like the Remy's was the longer one at like about an hour and a half, and the quota time was longer, but it was about an hour and a half.
Okay. I think around there early, I'm just remembering what you told me is that when you stopped to get the arepas
Yes.
and stuff, that was at the new Communicore Plaza,
Yeah.
where they have the festival favorites new booth there. I think is what it's called.
Yes.
So you got the new kind of, I guess, Encanto inspired menu. So
Yeah, and the stage is there, and they had Encanto stuff playing at various times of the day we could hear, and that was nice.
Okay, so did you like stop to see the show at all, or just like heard music in the background?
We sort of walked by like the backside, and you could see some of it going on and stuff, which is nice. But we didn't actually like stop and sit or anything. So we sat on the backside. It was a little quieter when we ate, and we just stopped for like 5 minutes maybe.
Any standouts from what you got? Like, would you recommend people stop to get anything there, or was it not a great?
I did like the areba. It was the chicken and guacamole one that we had heard good things about, and I really did like it, and Olivia liked it as well.
Okay. So I guess we don't need to go like minute by minute like that, but you kind of just walked around and kind of were trying to hit like
Yeah, like
wait
we did
times to hit
land, we
things.
done Figment, we got that food, and then we went and walked around World Showcase, and did we went to Mexico. Olivia's really big into the elote, so we made sure to get her that, and then we went in to ride
Grand Fiesta.
Grand Fiesta Tour. Thank you. I was like the Donald ride, Mexico.
Mexico.
And I
Donald.
stopped at La Cava and got the fancy Lily margarita with they do the smoke and they pull the dome off, and it's really neat.
And then so just spent time walking around World Showcase. Did you stop anywhere specifically? Any character meets or anything that you did that day, or photo?
We got Figment. We did a character meet with Figment. I don't think we did any others that day. We looked in, some of the shops, a few places, we walked around like in Morocco later in the day, and it was hot, so we spent a lot of time just checking different things out, trying to be inside.
Yep. So I guess that gets to mid-afternoon, and you had your meal at Shikasai, and not that you have to go through every course or anything like that, but just an overview of what you ordered and kind of your thoughts over it. I know, I forget if I tweeted. I know I posted it on the Discord server, but your view from there, it was like looking out over the lagoon.
Yeah,
it would have been like a perfect view for fireworks.
It
if you had
was
that table.
Yeah, it was gorgeous view. We were right at the front windows, so there's only so much of the restaurant is there, and we just got a great seat without even having to request it. So it was just very fortunate. So we got they have it's like the omakase at the front, and there's a few different options. So we got one that had like an appetizer, and then like another small plate, which I forget what they called that one. And then you picked a roll or a sushi option, or there was a different one that had like if you wanted a Chinese main instead of like sushi. So there were different versions, and a dessert. So
yeah, and I think you said your drink came with that too, or something.
Yeah, which I didn't realize, I guess, at first. But yeah, and I thought especially for Disney prices, it was pretty reasonable for like some fancy dining.
Yeah, I think you said it was $65.
Yeah.
For 4 courses and a drink at Disney is And you liked or you said you told
Yeah,
me it
I
was
did.
good. So.
It was good.
Good. So you would do it again and recommend it?
I would recommend it, as long as they have some things for, if you aren't a sushi fan, they have some cooked sushi. They also have, some Chinese options as well.
I know some people have gotten, there's like a fried, like chicken, some sort of chicken appetizer that people really like too. So they do have things that are.
Yeah, we did get that one.
Oh, well, there you go.
Olivia really liked it a lot. It was really good. Yeah, it came with like a tartar sauce on it.
Okay.
But it was like fresh, like homemade.
So I'm assuming like by getting there at 11 and then having that midday meal, that kind of was your break, right? You didn't like go back to the hotel.
We went in later, so it was around 10 we got in, so we just didn't. We also didn't stay for fireworks. We left we were on the Skyliner as they started. So I like fireworks, but the crowds and it's a lot of noise for Olivia. So we already had planned for the fireworks on Friday. So rather than have a stress point, we just decided that we were tired.
Yeah.
And we go home.
Definitely, like you have to make that decision because you guys haven't seen Luminous yet. Do you want to see the new show? But it is your first day after a pretty stressful travel day, and do you see that and then have a huge crowd leaving, and then maybe there's a long line for the Skyliner?
Right, and I
so.
do remember past trips, the long line for the Skyliner, and that definitely had a factor as well. I did not want to deal with that, so it was, I think it was the best decision for us at the time.
But in the end, you got pretty much all the rides. I know you had the Lightning Lane for Guardians. You mentioned you had Remy, but you did Frozen and Soarin' and Land, Grand Fiesta Tour, and Figment
Remy's,
and stuff like that.
we got on, and Nemo, and Spaceship Earth, even though that had gone down. I think this is the trip where, like, every day things were going down at various times. Like, I think something else had gone down at Epcot that day as well. Thankfully, it didn't really impact us. We just worked around it. So,
but overall, successful day.
Yeah, it was really good.
All right, so day 2 was for Hollywood Studios, so another Skyliner park.
Yes.
I guess as you were heading into that day, so that day you didn't have, I don't think, any reservations for anything. Oh no, you had Oga's you made.
We had Oga's
mid-afternoon again, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we had planned a little for that. We knew we'd be doing Fantasmic. That's one of his favorites. So we definitely wanted to get to that. And then we did get up and get Genie Plus for that day. And so because it's just the lines for Slinky Dog get so long, and we didn't want to rope drop.
Yeah. So I know you guys were following kind of my favorite plan for Hollywood Studios, which is
We came up with that together.
Yeah, sleep in and stack, where you kind of get the first one at 7 a.m. and then you kind of take it easy in the morning.
Yeah.
Because in that 11 o'clock, I think it was a 9 o'clock park opening. So 11 o'clock, you could get the next one, and then 1 p.m. and stuff like that.
Right.
So you go into having a number of them for the afternoon because there's a number of good rides at Hollywood Studios, but a lot of them, they're kind of heavy hitters and can have long lines. So there's not a lot of like C and D ticket
It's
attractions
like,
there.
even the Slinky Dog, when we got it, and first thing, it was, in the mid-afternoon. It was...
So at 7 a.m. you got the one for Slinky.
Mhm.
And then what time did you wind up getting to the park? Do you remember?
We got to the park, it opened at 9, probably right around then, or maybe like 9:15. So somewhere around there. So it was fairly early.
Okay.
But not quite rope
So you
drop.
didn't make your rope drop or
No.
make the early entry, but you got there kind of.
Okay. It says 9:20.
Yeah.
We did not take advantage of the early entry, but we had such a hard time getting up.
Yeah.
Like,
I've talked about that before on
once
the
you're behind on
podcast.
sleep.
I mean, this was probably even exaggerated because of your travel and stuff like that. But it just as the kids are getting older, it's getting harder and harder to get people up and out, and it's just not worth the stress.
Right. And also making it for rope drop, it makes more sense when you have a break in the middle, but we sort of didn't plan for breaks.
Yeah.
I thought about it for Magic Kingdom being a longer day, but then the way everything worked out even that day. So, but I think Hollywood Studios, I knew going in we wouldn't have a break just because of the timing of the our Slinky Dog even our first.
Yeah, that is one thing.
Lightning lane.
And one thing that we talked about with the changing now back to the lightning lane, multiple pass, where you will get to pre-book and pick your time. So I think that should make it a lot easier for people who want to do a midday break. With Genie Plus, you don't know what you're going to get, so you have to kind of have more flexibility.
Right.
So what was the first thing you did when you got to the, because you said your Slinky Dog wasn't until the afternoon, so.
Yeah, so I think we ended up at Star Tours. Oh no, we went to Muppet Vision first. So we went to Muppet Vision 3D just because we're walking around and we found that. And, Olivia hadn't seen it before.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you hadn't seen that.
So, and it had been a while for me. I don't think I'd seen it in a number of years, actually. So I enjoyed, because I didn't remember some of the things like the pre-show as much and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. Oh.
So I guess what else? And then I guess at 11, I think the next Genie Plus you got was for Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway. I think.
Yes.
So was that sooner, or what else? Like,
yeah, that was.
What other highlights did you have?
That was I'm trying to remember. Gosh, I'm pretty sure that was earlier in the day than our one for Slinky Dog. So, but after that, so we had that, and it wasn't immediate. So we did go over. We went to Star Tours after that, and then, just we did a lot of walking that day too, back and forth here and there. Like, we had weather, so we went on Mickey and Minnie's later, and it did get shut down, and then we went out, and then everything else was getting shut down with weather, and it was something.
It was another tough day.
It was like, I feel like our days got more and more things shut down as we went. Like, it was like building.
So I know your Oga's was later in the afternoon, so what did you do for lunch?
We went to Docking Bay 7, so I tried out salmon poke, or no, tuna.
I think tuna poke. They probably have a space name for it, but it's there.
It was tuna. Yeah, and so that was good. It's actually a lot. The price does reflect that, but I mean, for a lunch at Disney, that's like fresh food. It was good, and Olivia got her kids meal that she likes with the chicken cube.
The chicken cube with the mac and cheese,
yes.
Or something, right?
Yeah, and I also got the yucca fries, which were really good. I love those. I would go eat those like now.
Yeah, it's funny. I think, excuse me. I think Docking Bay 7 is almost a little underrated. I don't know why. Excuse me. I need a drink. Sorry about that, but I don't know. Maybe people are expecting more because it is a little more pricey than some other quick services.
Right.
But it's got a lot of unique food options, but that aren't. They're kind of like normal food, but just done with a twist or something like that. So it's kind of something. It's not like food you can have at home, I think. So.
Right.
I think we wind up there a little bit quite often.
And we also did get the dome dessert. That was fun.
So what other rides did you pick up that day? And were you hitting, I guess, were you just trying to mix in rides that had short lines in between your Genie Plus Lightning lanes?
Yeah, so we did try to do that, although everything kept going up, it seemed. So I think Star Tours the only one we rode without.
Yeah, I know you did Star Tours, and then I think you said you did Muppet Vision again.
Yes, we did end up at Muppet Vision again later because it was raining. And we got there early enough that, or maybe it was about to rain. When we came out, it was still raining though. So, but I think we got there before it was like this maddening rush. But it was a pretty full theater.
Probably the most crowded it's been in a while. And I saw you did get a character meet with Edna Mode, I think it was.
Yes, that's actually, Olivia, we were heading there first thing in the morning, but the map there, like I saw the building and I knew it was on the other side of the building, but I forgot which things connected where. So that's how we ended up at Muppet Vision the first time.
Yeah, because you have to get in the other way.
So, right. So we did that later in the day. So that was fun because we both had sunglasses. So we had our fun pose with her. she's, fabulous.
And then I guess you had your Oga's reservation. I know we've done it a few times. I feel like sometimes it was better than others. Sometimes could be a little hectic with multiple kids and stuff like that. But how was your experience at Oga's this
It was good. I did go when we checked in and I requested a sit down table because a lot of them are standing, and we did that in the past with the kids, and it was really it's just not very relaxing for us. I could see more of somebody who's a young adult and they're not so encumbered, or they haven't had such a long seeming day. They have a lot more energy. So for them it'd be a little easier to stand maybe, versus that. So they told us, it'd be more of a wait, which we were okay with. At that point it wasn't raining. So we were, we found mostly dry seats to sit on while we were waiting, and it ended up actually not being terribly long of a wait. So,
okay. And you got drinks and food, your snacks, and you enjoyed everything you got there.
Yeah, we did. Olivia really likes the Oga's Obsession, which is it's like a Jello. It looks like a petri dish. That's one of her favorites. And instead of a second drink, when I was getting my second drink, she got a second Jello.
Did you spend any time walking around Galaxy's Edge and kind of doing any of the activities and stuff like that, or was the weather just didn't cooperate and it wasn't?
We did walk around the sort of marketplace alley and checked out all the shops in there and did that. So we did do that. We didn't go check out any of the other stuff. A lot of it we have done in the past and looked at, and so with the weather sort of iffy, the shops are covered. Yeah. And that was a good choice.
So I know because I was helping you out with your Genie Plus by the end of the day, you had gotten on Slinky Dog, Mickey and Minnie's, Toy Story Mania,
Alien
Swirling Saucers. You did Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run.
Yes, and we did Rise.
And you did Rise
as a walk-on.
As a standby, right? Yeah, because you didn't get the individual lighting. Do you remember how long you had to wait for that?
We got it not long after it had come back up when it was down for weather. So our wait really was not very long. There was still a wait. Olivia says it's an hour. I don't think we actually waited an hour. So I didn't bother timing it that time. So.
And then I know you Rock and Roller Coaster was down. It just came back up. And I know you guys didn't have any interest in Tower of Terror.
Yeah, I like it, but it wasn't the Genie Plus were all gone by the time we got through all the other stuff that we were both more interested in, and I wasn't interested in waiting in the line by myself, to do that.
Did you do any of the shows or anything like the Frozen sing-along or Indiana Jones or anything like that?
No, we thought about Indiana Jones a few times, but the times just didn't work out with everything else we had going on. So, after, so the first time we tried to ride Mickey and Minnie's, the ride shut down. We were in the loading room. And so that was interesting, and that got switched to the multi-experience. And we did go back and actually use it for that later in the day. There's debate over Slinky Dog, but we wanted to ride that. And when that was down, we were like, oh, well, maybe they'll have, that coming up that we can do once the rain stops, because I was looking at the radar and thought it'd pass through. But the times were bad, and then the rain didn't pass through, so it took a little while.
So I guess other than the shows, you basically got on all the attractions that you wanted to, despite kind of everything else. But I think it's fair to say that would not have happened without Genie Plus.
That's true. Yeah, I definitely think with the wait times, how long they are, there's just, I feel like, not as high density of rides at that park. So that tends to lead to, longer lines in the ones that are there.
Yeah. And you said no midday break today, but you did stay for Fantasmic that day, right?
Yes.
So was that you just got there plenty early? That was a priority?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't super, super early, but we still got pretty decent seats. We were off to the right side. There was a pole, but we didn't sit at the end of the seat. There was somebody there, and they actually left. I think they didn't like the pole seat, behind us. We were in Sebastian, I guess. And so So we were just slightly to the right, but we had a pretty good view.
Okay. And
Overall.
obviously you enjoyed the show like always.
Yes.
And had the big giant mob trying to exit the theater and head
Yes.
back, but at least I assume the Skyliner probably had a long line, but at least wasn't waiting for buses and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
it's pretty good.
Skyliner had a long line, and they packed us in.
Oh.
There were 9 of us in our Skyliner.
Oh, wow.
Which was crazy because we got off, and some of it was, there were 2 kids, but then the rest, was all adults. And we got off, and the one behind us had 5. And I was like, really? I'm like, why did they do that? They put 4 groups in.
Yeah, that's a lot.
One. I know they were trying to really get things moving, get out of there, and I don't know how we ended up with so many people. It was, at least it's not a terribly long ride. We didn't have any stops or anything.
But especially the one from Hollywood Studios to Caribbean Beach is pretty short. So.
Yes.
Good. So next morning, I hope you got a good night's sleep that night, because next morning
did.
which Magic Kingdom Day, which was also June 28th, which was the grand opening of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which we had all the excitement of waiting for it to show up in the app and all that sort of things. And we had talked about it on the podcast previously, what was going to be the strategy for the day, knowing we would be, at 7 a.m. that day, you could try for, theoretically, the virtual queue for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. You could get Genie Plus and try for the Lightning Lane for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. You could try for the virtual queue for Tron, and you could get an individual Lightning Lane for Tron. So I think what we decided to do in the end was just focus on Tiana's.
Yes.
And figured that Tron, there would be the 1 p.m. drop, or we could buy the individual Lightning Lane or whatever.
Right.
And then, like I said, you guys were trying, I was trying, we had some friends trying, so I think we split it. We had 3 people trying for the virtual queue.
Yeah,
and 3 of us trying for the
Lightning
Lane.
Since we had gotten back to the hotel after Fantasmic, even though it wasn't, terribly long spent, getting through the crowds, it was still, late by the time. So with an hour and 45 minutes until midnight, I just stayed up and bought the Genie Plus at midnight just to make things easier in the morning.
That was one thing we talked about too, was one less thing to do in the morning, and we just didn't know, is everybody going to buy it for the opening day, and could it sell out? I didn't see any reports of it selling out or anything.
Okay, but
better
safe than sorry.
So fortunately, we were successful. One of our friends got the virtual queue for Tiana's.
Yep, Group 54.
Group 54, boarding Group 54. And we got the Lightning Lane for Tiana's for 5 o'clock or something like that.
5:20.
5:20. What we decided to do, I think, was because one thing that we uncovered, and I was reporting on this everywhere, was as soon as we got the virtual queue and did the Lightning Lanes for Tiana's, we tried to go over and get the virtual queue for Tron 2. And that's when it pointed out to us you can only have 1 virtual queue at a time, even though it doesn't say that anywhere in the printed material.
Well, and it specifically, I looked at the stuff, it specifically says you can only have 1 for each experience. Nowhere does it say you can't.
But then when we were trying to book it in there, it's oh, this person has 1 for another experience. We're yes, we know that. But apparently the system doesn't allow that.
So I'm really, really glad that we only focused on Tiana's.
Yeah, because God forbid
and didn't mess it up.
The person trying for Tron got Tron first, then it wouldn't have been able to get Tiana's and stuff like that.
Right.
After that happened, because then we knew, we'd only have the 1 p.m. drop, and God forbid something happens, we did decide to buy you guys an individual Lightning Lane for Tron. We got it for after the fireworks, so we were okay, well, if we're going to pay for it, let you ride at night and in the dark and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really cool then. What we found, fast forwarding a little bit, their boarding group hadn't been called by 1 p.m., so the 1 p.m. drop for Tron happened. It still wouldn't let us get 1 for Tron because she was still holding the other one.
It would have been. They made it up to 52, and then
it went down to the weather, I think.
It was 11 or 11, everything just the sky is just open, and it was just this deluge. And so we came out of, we had been on under this Ariel Under the Sea ride, and we came out, and I was why are all these people hanging out in the tunnel here? And it was because of the rain.
Yeah.
And we did not have ponchos at that point. So we ran over to Gaston's. Actually, went to the shop near there first and looked at stuff. And it still had eased up just slightly. And then we went in Gaston's for a bit. And that's where we were sitting when the 1 p.m. drop happened. And we found out we couldn't get.
Still could get it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, rewinding a little bit, though, I guess you were up then you just got going, right? After the drop, or did you go back to sleep and stuff like that? Like what time did you get to
on the Magic Day? We just got up and we got going. Yeah. So we weren't there, for rope drop, but it was pretty early in the morning. And by that point, we'd already seen like Aladdin's magic carpets was down and something else was down already. Like there were a few things. That wasn't then, that was later. Jungle was down later. Like throughout the day, things came up and down and up and down. Like I feel like almost all the major attractions were down at least once. Many of them twice during the day.
Yeah, it was a rough
It was a lot. That said, we did pretty well. We first went and we actually got into the line for the merchandise. They don't have the shop near Tiana's open yet. I don't know.
It's open
if
now.
Changed.
It's open now. Yeah, I think it opened today. The Critter Co-op is open now, but for opening day, they had everything at the Emporium.
Yes, and they just had roped off like that very front section, and they had the line there. But we were directed to the extended line to the right. But it actually wasn't too bad. They were moving pretty fast, the groups.
Yeah.
And a nice thing being the Emporium, where you're able to use the mobile checkout, which is nice and easy, I feel.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if you know how to use it and you're willing to use it, it just simplifies things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so you loaded up on the Tiana merch, including the lovely shirt that you're wearing. Yes. And you got me a shirt, and I know Olivia got the ears and stuff.
I got
like
a
that.
necklace too, because the gold and the green, like it fits a lot of the outfits that I wear, and it doesn't scream like Disney. I thought it was a nice subtle item to have.
Yep. And I think at this point you were messaging me about what you were getting and what you were doing, and then I was also trying to modify or look at lines, thinking about what we wanted to get for your next Genie Plus Lightning Lane, which would be at 10 o'clock that day, right? Because didn't it open early?
Yes. It opened at 8.
It opened at 8, so this would have been for 10 o'clock. So we were trying to decide if you wanted to get like Big Thunder or Jungle Cruise or Peter Pan or whatever. And I think we noticed that the Jungle Cruise posted wait time was really low then. It was only 25 minutes or something.
I think the posted was slightly higher, but the lines was saying it was low. So we actually went and did that walk on.
Yeah.
That was one of the things
because I think we settled on because I was looking at return times and it looked like Peter Pan was going to be the hardest one to get.
Yes, we did that.
So we settled on that, and then you went to do Jungle Cruise.
So.
Yeah. So do you? Again, we don't have to hit up every single minute of your day, but you remember other highlights that you're doing while you were kind of waiting for your lightning lanes and for your boarding group and stuff like that.
Well, we did a lot of walking around because every time we went, so I tried to pick we're like, oh, the line for Haunted Mansion doesn't look terribly long, so we'd walk over there. And by the time I get there, even though the posted was still the same, the line was down the street a ways, and I was like, there's no way. Yeah. There's no way it's that posted. Wait, it's longer. So we went, at that point, we're like, oh, well, let's walk over to Big Thunder Mountain. We got there, and I literally saw, this giant group out front. The line was, stretched down towards, the front of Tiana. It was, really far. It was, I don't know what group it was. It was huge. And the wait there had jumped from 25 minutes to 70.
Oh gosh.
And it was I was like, okay, let's go find something else to do. And then so we ended up on Small World. So we rode that, and which was nice, and you could sit and I could try to figure things out. Yeah. And then we went and got food at Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, and that was the new Sleepy Hollow menu, which I know a lot of people are not happy with, that they got rid of the crispy chicken waffle sandwich and the Nutella sandwich and stuff. I know they've switched it up now. It's a Mickey waffle with some toppings, and I know you said you got the chicken one and you liked it.
Yeah, so it was the Mickey waffle, which I think could have been a little crispier, especially with the heat. It just got soft fast. And also it was pretty crowded. I think a lot of people were just hungry by that time. even though it was still like late morning. And then we also got the funnel cake with Nutella on it. The chicken on the waffle I thought tasted really good, like the coating on it. It wasn't like too spicy. It wasn't like too flavorless or anything. Like it had a good amount of flavor. So.
Okay, so it sounds like it's maybe not as good as what was there, but at least it's not terrible.
Right, and the funnel cake itself like was really good. It could have like the Nutella drizzle could have been a little heavier, or maybe if they had powdered sugar with it as well as the Nutella, that would have been good. The bananas were nice.
So at this point, we're kind of tracking Genie Plus stuff. I know you had Peter Pan for later, and then I forget what we got next. I think it might have been Big Thunder, because we were watching times for that. But you had already gotten Jungle Cruise in. I don't know what else. I know you got a bunch done.
Big Thunder we got later. We got Space Mountain. I forget when we picked up that one. We could just, every time we had the availability, basically we picked up another Genie Plus. We did ride that later in the night, so we got that after fireworks as well for Space Mountain, which worked out well since we were over in that area for Tron anyhow. And I'm trying to think what else we did. We did standby line for area, which took longer than they said it would. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And then
there were just more people going to that because everything was down, or I don't know.
I don't know, because usually I feel like that one, like, it loads pretty quick and you get on, but it was just not loading quick, and it did stop right at the beginning for us. Like, we were right in front of Scuttle the first time there before we had even gotten like backwards down into the water, and it like started, and then it went, like, we turned and then it stopped, and then it went again, and like it was fine after that, but I don't know if there was just some like issues,
Yeah, so I know there were a lot of, I was monitoring too, everything kind of like Pirates went down from one point, and like everything went down, but I know some of your stuff, you're stacking your lightning lanes, and then some of them were getting turned into like anytime use because the ride was down and stuff like that. So it seemed like towards the end of the day, you were like sitting on a whole bunch, and things kind of opened up and you were able to use it. But during the day, I guess it was also leaning up towards you were watching the boarding groups for Tiana's, and you're kind of hanging out around there because it got up to like 52 or something like that, and you were 54.
Yeah, when they reopened after the first time it rained. So they did close later too when we had our lightning lane. So the first time it had gone down, it reopened, and we went over because they had stopped at 52.
Yeah.
And then they weren't calling boarding groups yet. So we were like, okay, well, so we walked back. We caught the end of the parade coming right through
through
Frontierland. And then we were walking to Pirates, but that wait time once again jumped up. This seems to be a theme we had going on. So we were thinking about like going to a tiki room or something else, and our thing got called, our boarding group. So we went back immediately and got on as quick as we could, and then I was able to still get Tron for the virtual queue.
Yeah, so that's one thing. I think by this point it was maybe 220 or 240, something like that.
I forget exactly when.
But fortunately,
I was just nervous.
The Tron boarding group did stay open for at least an hour plus. And so you were able to get it. But if it hadn't stayed open that long, you just would have been out of luck, which is not the best. But.
Yeah, so say somebody had gotten an earlier Tiana's, like they got like group 20 or 30, and they had been on it in the morning, they could have gotten that 1 p.m. drop, like no problem.
Yeah.
Whereas I was nervous.
So we'll see how long they keep the virtual queue for Tiana's. Initially, they said that the idea is it would only be there for a short period of time. I know it's been having some operating issues, so maybe that'll motivate them to keep it a little longer. I guess we'll see. But so if you are going when they have the two virtual queues, not only do you need to just get a virtual queue, you need to try to get as low a number as you can so that you're free for the 1 p.m. drop for the
Yeah, while we were at Gaston's, there was another group we ended up sharing that big table with, just to get some seats, and they had been on a morning Tron, like they'd gotten that in the morning, and then because this had happened, they were able to get Tiana's
At
from
1
1 p.m.
p.m.
I don't know if they rode or not. If they were pretty up there, so either they barely got on or they barely
they got a
didn't.
boarding group, but it was
It was
100 something or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't remember exactly which side of the dividing line they fell, but I know it was like pretty close to the number you said they got up to for the day.
Yeah, I think it was like 146 or something. They did manage to get to, which was pretty good compared to subsequent days. But we'll get to that later. So I guess you got on Tiana's. Obviously, I guess the big question is, what did you guys think?
We liked it a lot. Everything I heard, some other people had issues with animatronics. All of them worked like perfectly for both of our rides. We were in the back, so we didn't even get like super duper like soaked on the drops. We got, splashed a little, which is nice, but for a hot day, but not to be like walking around. At that point, sopping wet. Later.
Yeah, but not from Tiana. Before going into the ride, had you like watched ride videos? Had you seen anything about like what the storyline was, or did you go in pretty cold?
We went in not knowing like anything. We hadn't watched anything. Like we had just seen some of the critter characters, that they were on like the merch and things like that. So we didn't know exactly what the story was. We didn't know, how they had done everything like at all. So it was all new for us, which was nice. I think if it was like farther out, I probably would have like not waited, but just because we knew we'd be there for opening day, it was
only
like
a couple
to be
weeks,
special.
So, do you think this story, like you got the storyline and you understood what was going on, or did you kind of go in and say like, I'm not really sure what's happening?
I got the storyline. I feel like some of it wasn't the smoothest in some spots as far as where you go from one part to the next. I was like, oh, we're here already, type thing. But I still really enjoyed it, and so I think.
How do you think overall it compares to Splash Mountain?
It was a lot like brighter and everything, nice and fresh. The songs I really enjoyed, so it was like, it was a fun party.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the vibe they were going for. A lot of people, I guess, are complaining that there's not enough like tension in the ride, whereas like Splash Mountain, you were kind of like, you didn't know what was happening with Brer Rabbit, and then like they had the vultures that made it kind of scary before the drop, and that people are complaining that that's lost on this ride. But it seems like they're just going for a different tone, that it's more of a celebration and party atmosphere versus something scary and overcoming something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the whole point is the party.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay. So you think overall they did a good job, and obviously you got the benefit of everything working
Yes.
properly.
Nice.
Yeah. And you did get on it again using your lightning lane. I know, I think originally your return time, it was closed, so it got converted, but then you eventually used it anyway.
Right. And we did go over to check because by that point in the day, because all the lightning lanes were gone and all the virtue, like we couldn't tell, like it kept saying virtual queue only, which I thought it was open, and then they had closed it by the time we got there, and so it's hard to figure out in the app when it closes right now, how if it is or not, because it eventually did update to say closed, but it hadn't right away, so I wanted to make sure we didn't miss that window.
Even there's no
if we were riding in the rain,
not like it would show a wait time or whatever.
Right. So so when that closed, we did go ride Haunted Mansion then, and then later in the evening, and then we went back to Tron after that. By that point, we'd gotten ponchos by that point, which were a fantastic investment, I have to say. Our shoes were soaked, but the rest of us, not too bad.
So at this point, or at some point, you had to go check in because the big thing you were doing this day was the Happily Ever After dessert party, which you were doing the pre-party, which for people who don't know, there's 3 different versions of the dessert party. There's you either get the desserts before and then go over to the garden and watch from there. You could watch the show and then you get your desserts after, or you watch from the seats, but then your view's kind of at an angle.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if it's the same the one during, because it was like the back portion of the patio, so it would definitely be a more limited view if it's there.
I think for the ones where you have the seats, because the people are kind of either lingering or coming early, if you have the seats, it's the ones closer to the wall where you would be able to see
Right,
from.
but even then, there was like the walkway and another terrace in front of you then.
Okay.
Assuming they were in the same area.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything set up down in the lower terrace, which is closer.
Gotcha. But so overall, how did that process go for checking in, and what did you think? Because I know we did the dessert party years ago, but back then it was like $29 a person or $39 or something.
Right, and they ran out of things back then. This was not the case.
This was much more expensive. Obviously, it's just the two of you, but you're still making an investment. What did you think overall?
I thought it was really good. It is pricey, but the big thing you're paying for is that space to watch the fireworks in the hub. I don't know if the one where you sit in the seats and watch from there is the same pricing or not.
It's actually, I think,
feel like
$20 more.
Because I really feel like that wouldn't be as worth it for me.
Yeah, obviously you're paying to be able to sit down and like still see, but the view's not as good.
Which, I guess if you have a mobility issue, that's going to be something. But even, they do happen in the rain, I know sometimes, but you can't plan for that. Yeah. In the hub, we were able to sit until right before the fireworks.
How early did you go over? Like, because the fireworks that day were 9:20. So do you know when you went over?
I think it was like 8:45 that we went over.
Okay, so you had a good half hour or so to wait in the hub area.
Right, and the thing is, they tell you there's grassy sections with little walkways, and they tell you not to be in the front walkway or the back walkway. But they didn't specify anything about the ones that go almost like perpendicular to that, like in between. Mm-hmm. So nobody was sitting on those because they weren't the turf stuff.
Yeah.
So we were able to get a front spot right away. So there were already, some people lined up. A lot of the people who had the after party were over there earlier.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the benefits. If you get the one with the desserts after, you can go there as early as you want. So if you really want a specific spot.
Right. But we got a great spot. And, when we moved up, they let you move up when things were starting to the front railing. So it
was the food like? I mean, it's not obviously a meal, but was it okay? What they had, like
they did have like, as far as like non-sweet things, they did have some cheese and like little crostini, like little toasts, and they had a little bit of fruit. But yeah, mostly it's just the desserts. They were good. There was one or two that we weren't as big on from them, and then it seemed like their crepe. Like, it wasn't like you get to pick your toppings type thing. It was, like, already done. And it was apples. And it wasn't, like, caramel, but it was, like, apple pie. So that wasn't really as much of our thing.
Yeah.
So
overall, it sounds like you guys really benefited from it. And it was worth it for you guys to do. But maybe if we had to pay for all 5 of us, it would be harder.
Right. Especially because they're all Disney adults. And the drinks are included. And with having,
so you got a couple glasses of champagne, right?
I did.
I
was like, I'm paying
can't
this.
Get the champagne.
So yeah, I guess Emma's technically not yet. By the time she goes this summer, she will be.
So after that, you had your Tron, or did you do something?
We had done a Tron, the virtual cube right before.
Oh, that's right, because you got the virtual cube.
Yeah.
So you did the Tron virtual cube before.
Right.
And then you had the individual lightning lane, but did you do something before that, or?
Well, after the dessert party, we went straight over to Tron for so we did a lot of Tron right around then. So we went over there, and then we did Space Mountain, which I guess had been down shortly again. But we were lucky because it came right back up, and we were on the lightning lane, and we were on very quickly.
Yeah.
Which was good because then we had to book it across the park. Because Tiana's had reopened and Big Thunder Mountain, and we did those 2 as our last 2 rides.
So the first time you rode Tiana's, it was during the daytime still?
Yes.
And then you rode at night?
It was before too.
So. Yeah. How did it compare nighttime versus daytime? Did you prefer one versus the other?
I liked at night how like when you're right like the outside you can see like the flower and they all like the way they have them lit up and everything. It's really pretty. So just like the outside stuff, like you can see more details during the day, but at night like the lighting's really magical.
Okay. So, and then your last thing was Big Thunder, and then you headed out. And somewhere in there you fit in, I think you told me Seven Dwarfs Mine Train too. Was that just
Yeah,
earlier? You
that
just didn't
was
stay around?
earlier in the day. We had found time when we had a gap between some of our lightning lane times, and we said, okay, well, we have time here before we head over to other things, so we just did that then. And then, like, even earlier in the morning, we'd also done People Mover and Carousel Progress, which is nice to get out of the heat some.
Okay. So it sounds like you got, I mean, despite everything going down at times, it sounds like, if I'm like thinking of it correctly, I know you did Jungle Cruise. Did you get on Pirates at some point?
Yes, we did that after we rode Tiana's the first time.
Yeah, so you did
we
that.
Did go back.
You did Tiana's twice.
And it was short.
You did Big Thunder Mountain. You did Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. You did Peter Pan. You did Small World. You did Ariel. You did Tron twice. You did Space Mountain. Carousel of Progress. People Mover.
Philharmagic.
Philharmagic.
Yeah. So
I think
yeah,
that's a lot.
we did a lot.
No
It
wonder
was
you're
a pretty busy day.
tired. So I guess, and so you basically left when the park. I think park closed at 11, right? And you were
Yes, yeah, we got off of Big Thunder and it was 11:06.
So obviously at that time you left, you had to take the bus back to Pop. Looking back on the day, how did it feel to be there for the day, like opening day attraction? Did it feel like different energy? Did it feel special or anything like that? And I guess, would you, if somebody else had the opportunity to do that the next time they open a ride, would you recommend it, or would you say stay away?
Well, like the merchandise, like, area, like that felt like, because people were excited there. And then when you were over there, some of it was excitement, but there was also a lot of worry because of the rain. And both times we were over there, before we rode, it was like there had been the rain. So just with that, and then there's always some people who don't. But a lot of everybody seemed pretty hyped about it. It was pretty exciting that it was officially open, and so.
And the general consensus you got from people there is that they enjoyed the ride. There wasn't a whole bunch of people coming off saying, "I can't believe
everybody
they
seemed
changed it,"
pretty
or anything like
happy, and so it was it was pretty positive, and. Yeah, the rest of the park seemed pretty much, business as usual. It didn't bleed over as much as
I guess with all
some of
the
other
media
big
days
things.
and stuff like that, it wasn't like you had to have all the vloggers there and stuff
Right,
like that. So it
which-
kind of made the rest of the park at least feel like a normal.
I was
park.
relieved for that because I was worried to compete with people who are all practically pros at getting all the rides and stuff.
Good. And I know your last day you went to Disney Springs. Was there anything specific you wanted to do there? Did you eat anywhere?
We went to I can forget it, Summer House.
Summer House on the Lake.
Yes, Summer House on the Lake. So we first stopped at Ever After to get Olivia. They have the do your own headband, and she wears headphones a lot of the time. And we wanted to see if they would fit around, and they did. So she can turn her headphones now into ears.
Like Disney characters
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
So we did that, and then we went over to get food, and that was good. They have a lot of vegetables there, which makes me happy because I feel like I hadn't had enough. And I think my system has suffered a bit, the after effects of that. But overall, their food was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And then we spent just some time shopping. We did World of Disney. I got myself another puzzle. I like to do Disney puzzles a lot. And just had a fun time.
Good.
Shopping.
Yeah, so we're over the hour mark, so I don't want to dwell on Disney Springs too much unless there was anything else big. But obviously then you went back to Pop and had to get your luggage.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just did Uber back to MCO. And
Yes.
I remember you showed me the video when you were in the car. You were like, this driver's earning their tips because it's like an absolute monsoon.
It was
coming
insane. Yeah, well, and it was like that while we were waiting up the Disney Springs bus, and it had stopped. So we were driving there, and I was like, oh, this is not too bad. And he asked if we wanted to go get dropped off at the arrivals area instead of the departure because of the rain. And at that point, it wasn't much. I was like, no, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like we'll just be quick and we'll be in. And then like 2 minutes later, the skies opened up, and I was like, I think we'll go down below to the arrivals where everything's dry. So that's a nice little trick, you could do to when it's bad weather.
Yeah.
Because you just an elevator up.
And then I know, because I was living it with you, but your flight kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, and then we didn't know if it was going to get out. Lots of other flights were getting canceled. Some were getting out. Some were canceled.
It was really chaotic. It was really crowded. They had moved the international arrivals, so one of the train links, gate links, one of the gate link, like the Fago rails.
The Fago rails, yeah.
One of those was actually like closed off because they were using it for the international arrivals, and then they had them like processing in the area so that was like attached to where all the gates were that we were in through. And it was just a mob scene. It was just packed full of people. Like everything was like super long lines. I have availability to get into the lounge there, and we had to go on a waiting list for a while. Thankfully, it wasn't too bad, but even that, like, they were having trouble keeping up with everything.
So in the end, you decided they would offer it, I guess, through the app to you could rebook to a flight the next day, which you did to the morning, because rather than just potentially being there all night or who knows.
Right, and then by that point, it was already night. It was already like a 1 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. arrival or something like that. And with you picking me up and the other kids, that was like, when the original time was 11, that was late enough for them, or too late already potentially, but they would have been okay. But that just was too much. So we did that and stayed at a DoubleTree that you booked for us as well.
Yeah, fortunately I had enough Hilton points to do that, so that kind of made it an easy decision. Like, just go and do that, get some rest.
Yeah, and I guess in retrospect, because they were looking for people to like change flights because some had been canceled and they needed the space on the flight. I guess in retrospect, I could have gone to the gate and found somebody to see what the compensation offer was, and that probably would have paid for the hotel if I hadn't like just been in a panic a little bit over this whole thing. But we went and we got a full night's sleep, which was really nice. And the plane did eventually make it, I heard. I looked up and we got it like 2:30.
Yeah,
I was like, oh.
So I think it worked out in the end. And then we're just not driving in the middle of the night and stuff like that, and got back and
no issues with our plane the next day, and we got in like early even. So that was it ended up being a much better choice.
So just to quickly summarize, I guess, what are your thoughts looking back on doing kind of the mother-daughter trip, not taking your whole family? How did it feel? And kind of just any highlights you want to mention that we didn't talk about yet, or just any other takeaways?
It was nice when we have all the kids there. We have to like balance who gets what and who does what thing first, and like trying to make everybody somewhat happy. Whereas for us, it was easy to say like, do you want to do this? And we either do it or not. So it was a lot less of the like angst over just who gets to say what we're doing. So that was nice. And also just to, spend time, the two of us, especially after, her hectic finals and regents that she had finished with high school. For those of you not in New York, they have like standardized testing that may or may not be done away with in the future, but right now it's the thing. So she needs that towards her diploma. So she had 2 of those this year.
Good. Well, thank you for taking the time. Like I said, we're over an hour. So I think next week we'll push off the DBC engagement until next week, which is some input for ranking the Disney and Pixar animated movies. But we'll cover that next week and probably be back to more of a normal show. But thanks to everyone for listening. And thank you, Judi, for coming on and talking about the trip.
Thanks for having me.
so I hope everyone has a great week, a great July. Happy Canada Day to all our Canadian listeners who can also celebrate, I guess, for Canada Day that you can buy lightning lanes and book them ahead of time. So thanks, everyone. Take care and talk to you next week.
Have a good night.